Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce week 9 to you, which is October the 8th through the 14th. You're looking at large numbers and possessive adjectives. For this week, you're going to want to study pages 81 to 94 in your text, and you're going to want to review pages 58 to 75. At the end of this week, you should be able to discuss your classes, count up to 1 billion, talk about things that belong to you and belong to other people. You should be able to make plans with other people and ask for and give some simple directions. You should be able to use greeting, nationality, classroom vocabulary, as well as adjective agreement rules, regular present tense verbs, and regular present tense conjugation rules to describe with native to near native fluency an important person in your life. And all of this week's work addresses student learning outcomes 1, 2, and 3. Everything is due on the 11th. You're going to want to start by looking at your instructor-made videos, which go over possessive adjectives, large numbers, expressions with tenaire, and some of Chapter 3's vocabulary. When you're done, you're going to go to the class participation form. You're going to click on the thread. You're going to hit reply and post any questions or concerns you have about material covered in the videos or any questions or concerns you have about the class thus far. However, do make sure that you're posting. If you have no questions or concerns, then you need to post that. I have no questions or concerns. Otherwise, you're getting a 0 for this assignment. Okay. After that, then you're going to want to go out here, oral dialogue 2. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, you created a workshop. You won't see it here in this video because I'm doing the video in advance, but by the time you get to this week, you should see a workshop, something that looks like this, oral dialogue 3. But it'll say oral dialogue 2 and it'll go right here. You'll open that up. In it, you're going to see a corrected script. You wrote a script a couple weeks ago about what you plan to say for oral dialogue 2. Your fellow classmates looked at it and gave you some feedback. I also looked at it and changed anything that I thought was incorrect. So it's in your best interest to take the script that I corrected to look at it, and then when you're ready, you are going to want to hit record and then record that corrected script. So you know how to create these VidGrid videos. Here is one that tells you how to use VidGrid, and then this one tells you how to upload a video. I had made it for another student, but it'll show you how to, if you use some other video recording application that's on your computer, how you can take that video and actually paste it here into this assignment. If that doesn't work, then this also tells you how to use Vocaroo, and that's a link to Vocaroo. All right, and so when you're ready, you'll just hit add submission and just make sure whatever link you give me, if you're embedding the assignment, I think if you follow the instructions here, you won't be pasting a link, it'll just immediately embed. But when we're doing VidGrid/ILOS or Vocaroo, you're going to need to give me a URL. You're going to paste your URL here, okay, and hit Save Changes so that I can actually see your video. Okay. So when you're done with that, we also have a test which we're taking in class on the 11th. The test covers the second half of Chapter 2. Okay, and so this one is los gustos. You're going to complete each of the following sentences with the logical verb from the word bank. So in Chapter 2, you learned a lot of verbs. You do not need to conjugate them because remember that if you have a helping verb situation, two verbs expressing the same idea, only one gets conjugated. You've already got a conjugated verb to the left. You just need to fill in the vocabulary, the verb as is. Don't change it, okay? Here, you're going to start changing. Más verbos. Complete the following sentences with one of the verbs from the word bank. Be sure to make the verb agree in person and number with the subject when necessary. So remember, there may be some situations where there's already a verb given, so you aren't going to change the verb, okay? But most of the time, remember there's a stem, and then there's an ending, and that stem we usually keep because it tells us what we're doing, walking, dancing, swimming, etc. And then the ending we change to reflect who it is that's doing the walking, dancing, etc. So for all of these, you're going to need to take the verb that would best complete the sentence, and then you need to change the ending to show me who it is that's doing the walking, etc. However, again, if there is already a conjugated verb in the sentence, you are not going to need to conjugate because that first verb is telling me who's doing the walking, jumping, etc. Okay? Completamos las frases. Here you're not conjugating again. You just pick the verb that would best complete the sentence. You can circle it or write A or B. Here, los deberes. Do you know the difference between tener and tener que? You remember tener is used to describe things that you have, that you possess, and tener que is used to describe things that you have to do, obligations. And it's usually followed by, it's always followed by an unconjugated verb, because an obligation is something you have to do. So you're going to decide whether you need tener or tener que, and then you still, remember tener also has a stem and an ending. It is irregular, but you still need to change that ending to show me who it is that either has to do something or possesses something, okay? Then going down here, same thing again. You're going to pick the verb that best completes the sentence, and then again, you're going to want to change that ending to show me who it is that has to attend or read, etc. And if there is already a conjugated verb in front, before where your verb is going to go, you can't conjugate. Remember, that first verb is telling me who's doing the attending, learning, etc. Okay, this is just vocabulary. Un amigo ayuda. An international student from Spain is helping you review for your exam in Spanish class. He wrote some sentences in Spanish but left out important vocabulary words. Complete each sentence with the correct word from the list. So you're just going to take the word from the list and plug them into the blanks to make those sentences make sense. And then you're going to read about Eduardo Cruz. You're going to read this little blurb, and then you're going to look at the statements below and decide whether they're true, false, or not mentioned based upon what you've read. Okay? All right, so that's test 4. You also have activities in My Language Lab. So remember, we go out to My Language Labs. You click on the course. Let me make sure I'm still on the student. Okay, yeah. So you'll click on the course. It's a little different for me. The course calendar. And then you're going to want to make sure if you're doing it in advance, you might have to hit that button to toggle over to October. You click on the day the assignments were assigned, and then you open up each one and complete it. And you can do it as many times as you would like before the due date, but remember that if you're doing it more than 3 times, you should reach out to me, either via text or via email, or come by and see me. Writing assignment 1, again, you should see when you get to this week, there'll be a workshop right here. You will have already written your draft. Now you're seeing someone else's draft. You need to go through and critique it. I'm also going to go through and critique it, so that way after fall break, you'll see the critiqued version, and you can take that critiqued version and make your changes and submit your final draft. Finally, you have preparation for oral dialogue 3. Another workshop. You're just going to open up the workshop. It tells you to describe your class schedule orally in Spanish and that of another person. These are all the things that you're supposed to include in this little blurb that you're writing about your schedule and your friends, or probably a friend's schedule. When you're ready, you'll hit start preparing your submission, and you'll write what you plan to say orally. And then after spring break, a fellow classmate will critique your script, I'll critique your script, and then a week following that, you'll actually do the recording like what you're doing for oral dialogue 2 this week. And that's everything you have to do for week 9.